What's up guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, I'm completely new to this, as you'll probably guess. I don't know how to edit videos and I've never been on camera before, but like everything else in my life, I'm just gonna wing it. Now this channel is going to be about cars, car related stuff. I'm not a stats guy, so I'm not going to hit you with stats. I'm just going to give you my general opinion on the cars I'm driving. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick things off with a car from my very own collection. Okay, we're going to kick things off with my Lamborghini Huracan. Now, I've owned this car for 8 months and I've put a whopping 1,500 miles on it. That's right, I hardly ever use it. Some people buy shoes and never wear them. I buy cars and never drive them. There it is, my Lamborghini Huracan 580-2. I know you're thinking, I really should have cleaned it beforehand. Nah, just kidding. It's clearly not my car. Okay, well what can I say? Nothing screams attention like a Lamborghini. It's just so iconic, the shape. It's got a really, it's this wedge shape it's got to the front that Lamborghini's kept since the Countach. And every single one of the cars, so you don't need to know cars. If you see one of these, it's the shape that gives away, you know it's a Lamborghini. And the front is so low. I mean, I'm not talking about the ground clearance, I mean the ground clearance isn't very tall either. But this front bumper, it's so angled. It's ridiculously low. It's only when you see the car in person you realise how low it really is. But there's not a curve on this car apart from the wheel arches. It's like the whole car was designed with a ruler, and these mirrors are a classic example of that. There's not a curve to them, there's all just sharp angles and sharp lines. Now, a downside to this car, or all Huracans in general, is that you don't get Lamborghini doors. I mean, normal opening doors. Now the V12 cars, the Aventadors, those are the flagship cars. They will come with Lamborghini doors, but it's just ironic that you have a Lamborghini that doesn't have Lamborghini doors, whereas I've got a BMW i8 which has Lamborghini doors. Now, favourite part of the car's got to be the rear boot. It's got this louvered look about it. It's so aggressive, it's like something from Batman. Now you can opt for the glass engine bonnet, which is an optional extra. It's going to cost you more money, but in my opinion, the louvered bonnet, this is the one to get. It's just so much more aggressive. Even the bottom diffuser screams aggression. Now, on the 610-4 and the 580-2, the thing that's going to separate the two of them is that the 580-2, the rear lights, they angle downwards, whereas the 610-4, it goes straight across. Now the lights from the 580-2 was carried forward to the Performante and to the Evo as well. Now I don't know if you'll notice this, but I've got 2 license plates in that car. Right, you want to know why that is? I guess you can use your imagination. Now, massive quad pipes. This car's got the sports exhaust. Sounds absolutely insane. Well, it's a wee bit cheeky that if you buy a Lamborghini, you have to spec the sports exhaust. I'm of the opinion if you're buying a supercar, you should have a sports exhaust as standard. Now the wheels on this car are 19-inch. Now the brakes, these are the steel brakes, and you can tell they're steel brakes because they've got a wave pattern about them. Things called dihedral brakes. Now you can spec these with the carbon ceramic brakes, but to be absolutely honest, if you're not taking your car on track, and you're not going to race your car, it's really overkill. You don't need those brakes. The steel brakes, even on track, the steel brakes are going to do just fine. Now, another theme of all my cars is that they always have yellow calipers. Absolutely love that. It says Lamborghini on them, how ironic, but if you look really closely there's going to be a few Audi badges there, because there's no denying lots of the parts from this car are straight from the Audi bin. Well, you can't talk about supercar without mentioning the boot space. And the boot space, well, it's as you'd expect from a supercar. You're not going to do trips to IKEA, obviously. It's pretty small. But one thing the car does provide, in the case of emergency and you need to change your tyres, is they give you white gloves. You know, why would they give you white gloves? What are you going to do with that? That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Now, one of the main differences between the 580-2 and the 610-4 has got to be the front bumper. Now, the front bumper in the 580, it comes vertical this way, whereas the 610, it's a lot more angled. I must admit, I prefer the 610. This one looks kind of like a beaver. But the front license plate, yeah, I've had a few people talk to me about that, a few people ask me questions. Now, I've done a lot of research on the legalities of a front sticker license plate because I've been pulled over by the police on numerous occasions, and I've done a lot of research, and I can tell you that the front sticker license plate is 100% illegally legal. So take from that what you want, guys. Now, the engine, it is hot in here, I'm not gonna lie, it's very warm in here. Now, that's a 5.2 litre natural aspirated V10 engine. Massive motor. Now, it doesn't look particularly special. I mean, even though it says Lamborghini on it, even the Performante, which is a gold plated engine, it's nothing compared to the look of a Ferrari engine. A Ferrari, they know how to make an engine look good, but Lamborghini, they know how to make an engine sound good. Now, got lots of plastic trim, it looks really cheap in here, I must admit. However, if you opted for the glass bonnet, as I mentioned before, all this plastic trim would be in forged carbon composite, so it has a much more elegant look to it than this does. If you look really close, you'll see that the engine doesn't sit perfectly straight. I mean, if you look at the centre crossbar, you'll see the engine sits quite offset, and that's true of every single Lamborghini of the Gallardo and the Huracan range. It sits offset, and it's kind of weird to see that, because when you first look at it, I think, is this car broken or is there something wrong? But no, that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, sitting inside the Huracan, you're going to notice it's like no other car on the road. It's so Italian, and I love that. The front window is so raked forward, there's such an aggressive angle to it. Now, there's not a lot of space in the Huracan. If you're 5'10" and above, you're not going to fit really well. I'm 5'7" and some change, so I fit just fine. Now, part of the Lamborghini design language has got to be the hexagons, and you'll see it everywhere. It's part of the design language. The hexagon on the steering wheel, the air vents are hexagon shapes, the buttons are hexagon shapes, and even on the seats and the quilting, it's got this hexagon pattern on it as well. Now, the switches, this screams Lamborghini. It's like something from a fighter jet. And same with the start switch. They could have just put a button like a normal car, but they've had this little switch. It's just a small little touch that really adds to the drama. Even the reverse gear, it's this little lever you pull back. It's like something from a fighter jet. Now, you'll notice there's park, reverse and manual. There's no actual drive button, so to put in gear you actually have to pull the paddle shifters. And then we mentioned the paddle shifters, they're really large paddle shifters. Now, in BMW, Audi and Mercedes and Porsche, you've got really small shifters, because these shifters move with the steering wheel, but I'm of the mind that I'd like to have my paddles remain exactly in place. One touch I absolutely love about the Lamborghini's got to be the gauges. They kept it in Italian, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but it says press olio, temp olio and batteria. I mean, it would have been so easy for them to translate that into English, but keeping it in Italian just adds that little touch of character. Even the main gauge cluster, instead of saying petrol or fuel, it says benzina. Instead of saying water temperature, it says temp aqua. I absolutely love that, absolutely love it. Oh, and the switches. Now, these are your driving modes of Sport, Strada and Corsa, or Strada, Sport and Corsa. And I'll explain these as soon as I get the car on the road. Okay, visibility is really limited. You've got a horrific blind spot. And the back, you've got this louver look that you can't see anything behind you. So parking this car is really difficult. If you've got one of these cars and you don't have parking aids or reversing camera, you're going to struggle to get this thing in a parking space. Another thing you'll notice about the interior is that there's not a cup holder in sight. I mean, you're paying over £100,000 for a car. You can get like 5 cup holders in a Nissan Micra. This one, there's not a cup holder inside. There's absolutely nowhere to store a drink. The storage space is really minuscule. You've got a little storage centre in the middle there, but you can't fit a drink in there. Got a little storage cupboard in here again, no room for a drink. Well, I guess you can fit a bottle there, but nope, not a single cup holder inside in this car. Very Italian. I thought the Italians loved their coffee. See, I really wasn't joking when I was talking about the hexagons. There's a hexagon on the fuel cap. Even the door handles, I mean, that's another hexagon, and there's a hexagon inside the hexagon. I wasn't kidding. Okay guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through a quick history lesson of the Huracan. Right, the Huracan was Lamborghini's replacement for the Gallardo, and the Gallardo was Lamborghini's first attempt an everyday usable supercar. They sold over 14,000 units of the Gallardo, so it was the most successful car to date. However, had a major Achilles heel, which was its gearbox. It was a single clutch E-gear transmission, which was jerky, which is clunky. You couldn't drive it in stop-start traffic. So with the Huracan, what they tried to do was they tried to take the best parts of the Gallardo, which was its natural aspirated V10 engine, and they added a dual clutch transmission. This car feels very German, feels very Audi. That's not a bad thing because I love Audi. But it's the same engine, same gearbox, the same transmission as the Audi R8, so it's going to feel like the same car to drive. However, the Huracan's got this Italian twist to it. So even though it will drive the same as the Audi R8, it's not the same driving experience. You know, in an Audi R8 you can blend in, no one's going to notice you as much unless you really know cars. But the Lamborghini, no matter where you go, everyone's staring at you, there's so much attention, there's just so much drama. It's a much more visceral driving experience, even if it does have the same engine as the Audi R8. Now, there's no point in me talking about the driving dynamics of this car, how good it feels around the corners, because I stay in the city centre. You know, I never see a roundabout, I never see a corner. All the roads are straight lines. Now there we go, everywhere you look, there's people are taking pictures, people are driving really close to you. You know, especially up here in Scotland, you don't see many of these cars about, so you're so insulated from the noise. I mean, when you put the windows down, it's a different story altogether. Well, the windows up, no matter how loud it is outside the car, it's so quiet inside. Now, we're on the motorway, and I've got the car in strata mode, so might as well discuss what strata mode is. Strata mode is your street mode, is your compliant mode. It's your quiet mode because the exhaust valves are closed. Now, I don't know how this is coming off on camera. The exhaust valves are shut. So on a long drive in the motorway, you're not going to have this scream of an exhaust in your ear. Don't get me wrong, I love the sound of the exhaust. But in certain conditions, like a long drive in the motorway, it can be a bit overkill. Now, unbelievably, and I'm not exaggerating this, the fuel economy in strata mode is really good to me. For a 5.2 litre car, it's on par with my BMW i8 when it comes to fuel economy, because you've got something called cylinder shut-off. So under certain conditions, under certain parameters, it shuts off a cylinder, and the fuel economy, you'll be very surprised at how much fuel, how much miles per gallon you get in strata mode. I rarely ever use strata mode though. It kind of goes against what Lamborghini's all about. You know, Lamborghini's supposed to be loud and fast, but it's good to be able to have that. Now, the clutch, the transmission, this is the major change from the Gallardo, from the early model Lamborghinis. Is this, undertaking, this will end that from the camera. But yes, the transmission is lightning quick, it's unbelievably quick. You can't get quicker shifts than a dual clutch transmission. It's not the same as the PTK, the Porsche PTK gearbox is the industry standard when it comes to a really lightning fast gear shift. But when it's this quick, you don't feel any difference. It's not going to be any slower. I mean, the shifts are instantaneous. The speed, how fast is the car? I mean, in relative terms, the car is ridiculously fast. Of course, it is. It's 580 horsepower, it's 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. Well, that's what it says on paper. 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. I don't know if that's true because I never ever launched the car. Things down to sport mode, that's when the exhaust valves open, that's when the engine gets a lot more noisy, and the steering is dialed in for oversteer. In strata mode you're going to get a lot of understeer because it's supposed to be safe. In sport mode it's oversteer. And what that means is that a little twitch, a little turn of the steering wheel gives you a more exaggerated movement, so the car is more inclined to drift, to skid, to slide if you want to do that. It's what I call the fun mode. I spend most of my time in sport mode. That's the mode I want to use.
Now, if you click down steering here to Corsa, this is your race mode, this is your track mode. I think of it as racing course mode. So in Corsa mode, the steering is neutral. It's a very neutral feel. You're not going to get oversteer or understeer. So if you're going for all the lap times, that's the mode you want to be in. This is such a high revving engine. It goes up to 8.5 grand. But past 5,000, the engine is far too loud. I've never really had the guts to take up to 8.5. It's just, that's that territory. Your ears are bleeding. But I just love the fact that the car can do it. Everywhere you go, it gets so much attention. It's good attention and bad attention, but what do you expect? It's a Lamborghini. Cars nowadays, it's a shame the Ferrari have gone twin turbo, McLaren twin turbo. Why is nobody making natural aspirated cars anymore? You'll never get that noise from a turbo engine, never. You never get that instant, immediate throttle response from a turbo car. Your Lamborghini, they really are. It's a dying breed and it's a shame. It's all to do with emissions. The cost to make emissions these days, they have to go turbo. It's the sad truth. You know, they're disappearing, they really are. Now, of the lineup, the Huracan lineup, there's a 610-4, there's the Performante, there's the 580. We're not including the Evo versions of this car. Now, of all those three models, I still maintain the 580 is the one to get. I mean, it's 25,000 cheaper than the 610-4, and it's going to give you the same performance. The 610-4 is a wee bit too safe. You know, it's too much of an understeering car. And the Performante, well, it's £50,000 more for a track-orientated car, but with the active aerodynamics of the Performante, are you ever really going to experience that? Even on the track, you're never going to really use its full, benefits, its full, what the car is capable of. So £50,000 more for a Performante for its active aerodynamics, you don't need that. The Huracan 580-2 is, in my opinion, it's the purest form of a Lamborghini, because it's 580 horsepower to the rear wheels. That's what a Lamborghini should be. It should be scary. It should feel like it's going to kill you, and I want that in a supercar. I don't want it to feel like I'm driving a Subaru WRX or a Mitsubishi Evo. The Huracan 580, without a doubt. If you're going for a supercar, this is the one to have of the Lamborghini lineup. Does that mean that I won't get an event stock or I won't get a Performante? Absolutely not, absolutely not. What I'm saying is that if you buy the 580, you're going to be more than happy. It's going to provide all the thrills that you expect from a Lamborghini and more. Probably more so because it's rear wheel drive. Now, if you look at this car, I mean, not just this car, most supercars, they give you the ability to make the car quiet. They give you the ability, especially with mag suspension, to make the suspension soft. You can't use these cars every single day. These supercars are now everyday cars. It's unbelievable. We're absolutely spoiled when it comes to cars these days. But in the past, supercars, they would break, they were temperamental, they were just horrible in fuel, the suspension was really, really rough. Nowadays, with a supercar, you can change a button and you've got a different version of a car. Like in Strada mode, I've got a very comfortable, compliant, normal daily drive car. And with sport mode, I've got a really wary drift car, skid car, something that's just absolutely crazy to drive. And then you drop it into cross mode, you've got a car you can take to a racetrack and put on decent lap times. It's absolutely unbelievable. I cannot say any better praise of the Lamborghini Huracan or supercars in general. We're absolutely spoiled.
Well guys, that's all from me. Surely it wasn't that bad. Thanks for watching. If you managed to watch it till the end, I'll be very surprised if anyone's still with me right now. But yeah, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, let me know, how bad was this video, and subscribe because I've got more content coming your way. Thanks guys.